On this week's NXT, Trick Williams was ambushed by Carmelo Hayes' henchmen, which included a disguised Hayes himself, as the group laid out Trick to end the show. This attack also saw a hooded figure appear on the stage pretending to be Hayes so that Melo could jump Trick from behind, but who was this mystery man? According to Sean Ross Sapp behind Fightful's paywall, this person was Daryl Sharma, aka Adrian Butler, who is an NXT referee and who appeared as a ref on the same show. Photos from the show indicated that Sharma and the mystery man wore matching shoes, and NXT sources also confirmed to Fightful that it was him. Hayes and Trick will face off at NXT Stand and Deliver in a match that could easily headline the show, and we'll have to see what other tricks Melo has up his sleeve en route to Philadelphia. Last year, Nick Aldis joined WWE as the Smackdown GM and has proven that he will not be pushed around by anyone, and that includes the Bloodline. Aldis' issues with the faction, as well as his on-screen feud with Raw GM Adam Pearce, led to speculation that Nick will wrestle in WWE one day, but if so, it won't be happening soon. PW Insider reports that sources within WWE have discovered that Aldis has suffered an arm injury that will necessitate surgery, and there's speculation of a torn bicep. In a follow-up post, Aldis took to social media to confirm the reports and shared that he'd just had surgery and described his bicep tendon rupture as caused by a freak accident. Most importantly, though, is that Aldis said he will continue to fulfill his obligations, which certainly seems like he'll continue to appear on WWE TV as SmackDown's GM. There's no word on when Aldis will next be on SmackDown, but fans might not be waiting too long, and we're wishing him a speedy recovery. Over to AEW Dynamite now, as this week's show was arguably built around the TNT Championship match that saw Christian Cage defend against Adam Copeland. Copeland appealed to the hometown crowd in Toronto by wearing a Maple Leafs jersey, and while Cage tried to escape the arena, he was stopped and brought back by the Rated R superstar. Shayna Wayne interrupted the match to hit Copeland with a hockey stick low blow, and Nick Wayne and Killswitch would also make things difficult for the WWE Hall of Famer. The referee only asked if they quit sparingly, so it never felt like the match gimmick was being overplayed, preventing the usual silly spot of an I Quit match where stars are asked after basic moves. Matt Menard and Daniel Garcia would come out to even the odds, handcuffing their foes to the ring, and Copeland then took the spiked weapon he introduced recently and didn't hold back on his former friend. In his efforts to get Cage to say "I quit," Copeland hit the champion with 7 straight low blows, then attacked him with the spike, but the Patriarchy leader still didn't concede. When Copeland was ready to hit Cage in the head, the champ said the immortal 2 words, giving Copeland the win and making him a 2-time AEW TNT champion. This was a really fun match that saw everyone invested, though there was a funny moment where Taz on commentary called Copeland Edge, his name in WWE. The human suplex machine corrected his mistake, and it was an understandable one, given that Taz worked for years with Edge and Christian during their runs in WWE. Copeland winning in the main event was certainly the right call, and here's hoping he gets to enjoy a full title reign this time, unlike his first stint as TNT champion. The last time fans saw Ronda Rousey in a WWE ring, it was at SummerSlam 2023, and while she did a handful of matches outside the company, she hasn't competed in some time. This week, Rousey confirmed what many had suspected, that she is retired, but the former women's champion isn't just done wrestling, but is done competing altogether. Speaking to Never Before Told to promote her Our Fight memoir, Rousey spoke about her retirement and revealed the real reason why her competing days are over. She said, "My concussion history that I had to keep a secret for years so I would be able to continue to compete and perform. That's basically why I had to retire." Rousey also spoke about how she'd never go back to WWE, which gives the WrestleMania main eventer a sense of freedom when she stated, "How much of an absolute show is it at the WWE because they can't hold a sword over my head and hold me hostage with my own career, and I don't need anything from them, and I don't intend on going back, so I can actually say everything that I think and feel." Rousey was one of WWE's top women, but her time with the company is up, and fans should never expect the outspoken former champion back in the squared circle. But what do you make of this? Are you sad to see Rousey share that she's retired from competing? Share your thoughts in the comments section down below. With no intention to return to WWE, Rousey is able to be much more blunt when it comes to her former employer, and bluntness was something Rousey never lacked. During her never-before-told appearance, Rousey was asked if she had any real issues with MMA fighters and compared it to her time in WWE. She said, "In MMA, I originally just started them for publicity, but those other bitches did not get the memo, and so they became personal. And in WWE, the issues with other superstars are all fake. I love them, except for Bruce Prichard and John Laurinaitis. They can go f themselves." This isn't the first time Rousey has hit out at Prichard, as she said in January that as long as the former Brother Love is in WWE, Vince McMahon will still have a role in the company. Rousey had even more to say about McMahon in her book, saying that it's hard to know where the evil slimeball character McMahon played on TV ends and where the real Vince begins. Rousey refers to McMahon as like Emperor Palpatine, the antagonist of the Star Wars films, and also spoke about WWE's relationship with Saudi Arabia. The former champion described the country as a nation that restricts the rights of women, adding that she's certain Vince McMahon wishes he could do the same. Rousey's remarks show the complex relationship she has with WWE, as while she was fine with the roster, those at the top of the company drew the ire of the baddest woman on the planet. McMahon is currently facing the Janelle Grant lawsuit, and we can probably imagine whose side Rousey is on, and what do you make of her comment? Let us know down below. More from AEW Dynamite, which saw tag team allies square off as Chris Jericho faced Hook for the first time ever, which fittingly took place in Jericho's native Canada. This match was hard-hitting and saw Hook get a surprise win over the veteran, but there was a moment in the match when things nearly went horribly wrong. During the match, Jericho attempted to throw Hook backwards at the turnbuckle, but the move was not executed properly, resulting in the FTW champion landing on his face. This could have been a nasty injury, but thankfully, Hook was able to carry on and was able to get the win after fighting out of the walls of Jericho. This was a good match, but overshadowed by the situation in the corner, and we're grateful that both men were able to leave the ring relatively unscathed. This week's Dynamite also saw AEW Rampage air immediately after, and during that portion of the evening, a video segment featuring Bullet Club Gold was shown. The group gloated following their betrayal of the Acclaimed last week, and the faction were shown at a pool house enjoying their time. It seems the segment also spoiled an upcoming return, as when Jay White was waving his new gold baseball bat, a fourth man was seen walking in the distance. Upon closer inspection, it appears the man was Juice Robinson, who has been out of action since November of last year and has been sidelined with a back injury that required surgery. Hopefully, Juice will be back in the ring soon enough, as he brings a lot to Bullet Club Gold, and this week's Rampage may have given away that his return is coming sooner rather than later. When The Rock returned to WWE, he did so to a mixed response, as while many fans were happy to see him, audiences hated that it seemed he'd be taking Cody Rhodes' spot. WWE has since course-corrected by turning Rock heel, but there are still some who think that things were going great before the Great One took the spotlight for himself. Speaking on Busted Open Radio, L.A. Knight offered his perspective of The Rock's return and what's happened since then, and weighed up the pros and cons, stating, "It depends how they're coming into the fold and what they're doing. Hear him say wrestling is cool again, and he's right. However, I want to make sure everybody knows it started getting cool again 6 or 7 months before he got here. I'm not saying he can't add to that cool factor or that he won't. I'm just saying wrestling is cool again, and wrestling was cool again before he came back. I don't want it to seem like all of a sudden it happened because of him. Nah. Knight is firmly of the belief that The Rock's presence can help enhance the show. There's also a risk of it appearing self-serving and potentially alienating certain fans. After all, The Rock seemingly doesn't have to follow the same PG guidelines as the rest of the roster, and it's hard to see that as anything but favoritism for the Brahma Bull. The Rock will compete at WrestleMania 40, which will also be Knight's first WrestleMania. And do you agree with Knight that wrestling was great before the Great One's comeback? Tony Schiavone wasted no time kicking off AEW Dynamite when he introduced Mercedes Moné, who spoke about coming to AEW after nearly being forced to retire from an injury. The CEO chants during Moné's entrance sounded piped in, but once she got in the ring, there was no denying that the chants for her were very real. Moné spoke for less than 10 minutes and almost ended her promo uninterrupted, but the lights dropped in the arena to signify that something was coming. Moné blocked an attack from Sky Blue and almost took out Julia Hart before they left the ring to get chairs, but Willow Nightingale and Chris Statlander were there and made the save. In an interesting moment though, it's worth noting that the segment ended with the lights going out again and saw Willow holding the chair, possibly looking to strike Mercedes herself. This led to a verbal back and forth between the two former rivals, who could be heading towards a collision course soon in a rematch from the bout that saw Mone get hurt. This understanding between the pair seemed a bit contrived, but it shows that there's more than one path for Mone, and it'll be interesting to see which path she takes first in AEW. For years, Sasha Banks declared herself the boss, leading to Michael Cole insisting on yelling, "It's boss time" for every appearance by her, but that moniker changed when she left WWE. As Mercedes Moné, the ex-superstar has been dubbed the CEO, and while many think the terms are synonymous, there are differences between the two monikers. Sitting down with NBC Boston alongside AEW's actual CEO, Tony Khan, Moné shared the differences between herself today and her role as Sasha Banks, stating, "Sasha was a boss, but a boss is someone that demands something. A CEO is on a mission. I'm on a mission to make AEW global. That's exactly what we're about to do. We have the top wrestlers from around the world. If you watch every week on Dynamite, you're not going to want to miss anything." Moné is certainly poised to do big things in AEW, as during the interview, Khan said she's perfect to be the face of the company, in a bold claim for someone who debuted mere days earlier. Big things are expected from Mercedes Moné, who is relishing in her role as the CEO, and what do you make to this moniker for the ex-boss? Let us know in the comments. Now, Mauro Ranallo was once one of WWE's most popular commentators, but after some issues with JBL, he opted not to renew his contract and left in 2020. Ranallo made a one-off return in April 2021 as part of Impact Wrestling's Rebellion pay-per-view, and now he could be back in line for a full-time comeback to the commentary table. Reports from Fightful Select indicate that Major League Wrestling has been engaged in discussions with Ranallo regarding a possible collaboration in the near future. This interest stems from Ranallo's previous collaboration with MLW owner Court Bauer on a Strikeforce project, establishing a foundation for potential future endeavors. We'll have to wait and see whether Ranallo returns to the world of wrestling, as his commentary has always proven popular, and it may not be long before we hear from him again in MLW. Over to New Japan, as Jack Perry's debut in the New Japan Cup tournament made waves, as he's secured a victory against Shota Umino after being assisted by Ren Narita. Perry shocked fans by aligning himself with the House of Torture faction, and the faction got the win on the tour's final night against Shota, El Desperado, and Yuji Nagata. In response to this unexpected alliance, Umino took to Twitter after the match, and when borrowing a line from Perry's foe CM Punk, told the ex-Jungle Boy that it's clobberin' time. Fans will of course remember Perry's fight with Punk at All In 2023 that led to Perry being suspended from AEW and Punk being fired from the company. It was recently reported that Perry is still with AEW, but Tony Khan is still mad about All In, and until he's brought back, it seems he'll have plenty to do as a part of the House of Torture. Last week, Booker T said that he had a run-in with CM Punk at the NXT taping, which unsurprisingly led to fans discussing if Punk had actually changed since his AEW exit. Many were skeptical of Booker's claim though, especially as no one else saw this alleged altercation, and on his podcast, Booker admitted that he'd made up the clickbait story. Booker made up the altercation to get attention, which seemingly worked too well, as even after his confession, there are still some who want to see the pair have a fight. On the most recent episode of his podcast, Booker discussed a potential showdown with Punk, and despite falsely claiming a run-in, wasn't interested in an actual altercation. He said, "You know what? I don't know why people want me to have. I saw somebody said, I just want to see you and CM Punk have a fight. Look, me and CM Punk, we won't be having a fight, okay? I want to let everybody know out there, I have no ill will towards CM Punk." Booker says he can't see why fans are making a big deal over his claims, though it's hard to imagine he didn't predict how fans would react to claims of a backstage issue with Punk. Punk won't be fighting anyone anytime soon due to his injury, but vows to be at WrestleMania. And what do you make of Booker's latest comments? Give us your take in our comments. In the first match of AEW Dynamite, Eddie Kingston defended the Continental Championship against Kazuchika Okada, but this was not for all three of Kingston's titles, so he only carried one. This saw a slow start, but once the Mad King got upset, he unloaded on the Rainmaker, and this match was more about building a story than packing in as many spots as possible. This meant a lot of selling of every big move for a long time, and it almost felt like Kingston was trying to prove he was as good as Okada by utilizing a few moves he doesn't utilize regularly. The pair told a great story and put on a solid match that left room for them to improve in future encounters, which we imagine will happen given the ending. After delivering a Rainmaker, Okada scored the pin to win the Continental Championship, not bad for someone who only very recently joined the company. Dynamite also saw Will Ospreay take center stage for an interview with Tony Schiavone and discussed his AEW Dynasty match with Bryan Danielson that'll happen on April 21st. To prove he's ready for Danielson, Ospreay accepted a challenge from Katsuyori Shibata, and we're sure the pair will deliver an exceptional match next week on Dynamite. In women's tag team action, Deonna Purrazzo and Thunder Rosa got a huge win over women's world champion Toni Storm and Mariah May, with Rosa stealing the win for her team. Purrazzo looked far from happy after the match, considering Rosa getting the pin, showing there's no true allies when everyone's wanting a shot at the AEW Women's Championship. Orange Cassidy and Trent Beretta took on Powerhouse Hobbs and Kyle Fletcher in tag team action, and this was the first bout as part of the Rampage part of the show. Hobbs almost won immediately with a huge spinebuster. It took a desperate save from Beretta to break it up, showing the Callis family's significant size and power advantage. They made sure to use that advantage at every turn in this high-energy match with a lot of great spots, but in the end, it was OC who picked up the win with an orange punch to Fletcher. Up next, Katsuyori Shibata squashed a local talent by the name of Kevin Matthews before Konosuke Takeshita took on Rocky Romero. With very little time, the pair did what they could to make for a fine match before Takeshita earned the victory with a textbook Falcon Arrow. The Rampage main event was a street fight with Willow and Stat taking on Blue and Hart, and the four women didn't have a lot of time to work, so they didn't waste any time. Tables, chairs, and a metal spike were all used before we hit the 5-minute mark, and there was an oddly placed commercial break towards the end of the hour. Thankfully, TBS allowed the show to go into overtime, so it wasn't as jarring as it could have been, and thanks to this extra 5 minutes, this was a fun street fight with memorable spots. Having Julia Hart get the submission win felt like the right call, reminding fans that she is TBS champion and has held the gold for some time for a reason. Since the launch of TKO, WWE has seen a lot of notable names come and go, and this week, PW Insider confirmed that John Porco has left his executive role with the company. Porco, who was WWE's EVP of live events, joined WWE back in June 1999 as a public relations coordinator and transitioned to the live events department in 2002. He'd become Senior VP of Live Events Marketing in 2022, and his exit marks the end of an era for the sports entertainment juggernaut. AEW Dynamite also saw Swerve Strickland issue an open challenge as he was frustrated and ready for a fight, and it was the Butcher who answered the call. This was the Butcher's first Dynamite match since October 2023, when he was part of a 6-man tag bout, but the 6'3" powerhouse didn't thrive in his big return. Strickland was in control of the entire match and hit the house call and Swerve stomp before using a new submission hold on the Butcher to get the win. As commentary stated, this was Swerve's first submission win in AEW, and one has to wonder if he's added the move to his arsenal as a retort to AEW World Champion Samoa Joe. Strickland has been hungry to prove he's worthy of another title shot after he failed to win the gold in the triple threat at Revolution, which saw Hangman Page tap out. It's been suggested that Page tapped just before Strickland broke the hold to ensure Swerve didn't win the title, and we'll have to see if Strickland gets another shot at becoming AEW World Champion. We are now just 16 days away from WrestleMania 40, and for the 5th consecutive year, this year's show will feature 2 nights of stacked entertainment. According to WrestleVotes, the current plan is to feature a total of 7 matches on each night of the event, and so far, 10 matches have been confirmed for this year's show of shows. We'll have to see what else makes the card, and which matches fall on which night, as the road to WrestleMania in Philadelphia is nearly at its end. And we're ending with Becky Lynch, whose The Man memoir will hit shelves around the world next week, but some names from WWE have been fortunate enough to read an advanced copy. The book will document Becky's life from humble origins in Ireland to becoming an international superstar and household name, and the memoir has received rave reviews. Stone Cold Steve Austin described Becky's writing style as infectious and contagious, just like her personality, while Mick Foley called the tome a pleasure to read. John Cena credited the book as the next underdog's guide to the galaxy, while Stephanie McMahon praised Lynch for having the guts to put it all on the line to be a wrestler. Becky's husband Seth Rollins described the book as effortlessly authentic and went as far as to call it the perfect memoir, and was clearly impressed with his wife's accomplishment. Becky Lynch has had quite the life, which should make for a fascinating read when the book is released next week, especially if these reviews from stars and legends are anything to go by.